Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's worth your time and bandwidth. Today's review is You and Me and Her, a love story, a romance VN where one of the characters seems self-aware that she's in a romance VN. Does You and Me and Her deliver visual novel insanity? Let's find out. You and Me and Her is a romance visual novel, and it's a game best experienced knowing little to nothing about it. So if you have any affinity for visual novels and have played some before, I'm going to spoil the ending of this review and say go buy it, it's good. But if you don't mind really minor spoilers or need more convincing, let's get into it. Oh, and I should mention there are two versions of this game, the original 18+ version and a censored version on Steam. I played both for this review, and for the review I'll be covering only the censored version, though I'll mention a few differences as we go along. You play as Shinchi, the most generic romance novel protagonist ever, whose dark-haired beauty childhood friend Mayuki has risen in class status and seems to have forgotten him. But his life is interrupted by Oi, an absolute spaz who tries to get him to kiss her on the class roof in what she calls getting zappy. Oi believes she's in a visual novel and exists as a side route, and as such she wants to get Shinchi and Mayuki together as they're the primary route. As you can guess, this is already getting a bit meta, but the game plays it completely straight, with characters thinking Oi has just played too many visual novels. The trio quickly becomes friends, as they want to help Oi get back to reality, even if she keeps talking about how she talks to God, and will change the story to help Shinchi if he wants. After clearing the first route with Mayuki, you're given the option to romance Aoi on a replay, and that's where things get more interesting. As I said, I really don't want to spoil stuff, but things go off the rails really quickly, and the game transforms into something else entirely. In addition to all this stuff, the second half of the game actually becomes a fairly clever puzzle, in which you'll need to actually read and pay attention to various characters, scenarios, and situations in order to understand a character's beliefs and motivations. And this leads into a particularly complex ending puzzle that I absolutely will not spoil. Doki Doki Literature Club comparisons are apt here, with some extra weirdness being these two games came out around the same time, but they both do similar stuff with meta commentary on their genres. I don't want to say anything more about the story because I don't want to spoil anything, so let's talk about censored versus uncensored. The uncensored version, as you can imagine, has plenty of 18+ scenes, as getting zappy is not kissing, but well, you can probably guess what. My personal take is that if you want a disassembling of romance visual novels, play the censored version, and if you want a disassembling of Erage visual novels, play the uncensored version. I will say that unlike a lot of VNs that just slap sex scenes in to sell more copies, the scenes here do actually matter to the story, and mostly just make the whole thing more messed up, but it really depends on your taste and tolerance. So yeah, that's You and Me and Her. It's a romance VN with a lot more going on than you might think, and an absolute trip once you get into its later portions. So what did I like about You and Me and Her? Well, the characters and writing are incredibly well done here. Oi in particular is just charming with how weird and spazzed she is, and how Mayuki's character evolves is really something else. Excellent writing and translation across the board. And additionally, without too many spoilers, this game is an incredible unraveling of romance VNs in some really interesting ways, being fully aware of its genre and how games in that genre treat women, their protagonists, and the tropes that surround them. And lastly, since there are two versions of this game, I will say this, I do think the censored version is just as good as the 18+ version, so if you're like me and tend to avoid more adult VNs, rest assured that the censored version is still fantastic. When it comes to the bad, this game has some really screwed up stuff in it, even the censored version, so consider this an absolute content warning and quadruple that warning for that uncensored version. It is genuinely disturbing. Additionally, there's a meta level of analysis of VNs present here, something that people who haven't played a lot of VNs might not appreciate. Don't let this be your first visual novel. And lastly, the final puzzle portions are probably going to frustrate some people, as the game requires a lot of outside-the-box thinking as well as repetitive play in order to finally crack that code. As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale: must play, maybe consider, and don't bother. You and Me and Her is an absolute mindfuck of a visual novel, and that's a term I don't use lightly. It manages to be both a charming romance novel and an absolutely horrific critique of its own genre and the character tropes that inhabit it. So whether you play the censored version or not, if you have any affinity for visual novels, meta-analysis, or just really enjoy Doki Doki Literature Club, you should be checking this out. Just don't let it be your first VN, for the love of God. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Have you played You and Me and Her? Censored or uncensored? Please let me know in the comments, but make sure to not post any spoilers, because this kind of game is best played blind. And yes, you should definitely go out there and give this game a look.